Jack's High Seas Adventure, a short story by AJ Bordzhe. The sun shone in the sky as Jack swabbed the poop deck. The day was hot and there was no place to hide from the sun's rays beating down on him. He watched as a bead of sweat ran down his nose and fell into the bucket he was holding. He watched as it made a tiny splash and several ripples in the still water, until Pegleg Rick splashed his scrub brush into it. Jack looked out across the ocean. The water was calm and stretched out to the horizon, where it met the clear blue sky. All around them, in all directions, was clear blue. "The sea calls to us," grumbled Rick. It was the first thing the old sea hand had said for some time, and it took Jack by surprise. "Excuse me?" Jack said. "The sea calls to us," Rick said again more emphatically. "On the great steppes of Eurasia, there are a great number of horsemen and horse tribes, Huns and Tatars and Cossacks, all fierce warriors. Some call them fearless. But they do have them. They fear places their horses can't go. They fear the heights of the mountains and the dark forests especially. Any places their horse can't maneuver, you see. These men are bonded to their animals. They trust them to keep them safe. When a Tatar is out on the plains with the clear blue sky above them, they are at ease. We are not unlike them. Some might be afraid to go where there is no land to be seen, but not us. The clear blue calls to us, but why? It's because of the bond between us and our horse. You might think this old boat is nothing but dead wood, but it's much more like a living animal. You must form a bond with the ship, put your trust in her, and you will feel so at ease in the open ocean that when you return to land it will feel like the depths of the blackest forest." Rick dunked his scrub brush in the water again and moved forward down the deck. Jack followed him, and as he stepped, the wood creaked. Maybe Jack was going mad from the heat, but he swore he heard his name in each creak of the wood, soft like a whisper. "Jack, Jack, Jack," the boat called. The brush splashed in the bucket again, snapping Jack back to reality. At this time, Lookout Jim had scrambled down from the crow's nest, and Captain Jerome was descending from the stern castle. "We've spotted her, sir," Jim said eagerly. "They're off the port bow. It's her. It's the slippery morning on the horizon." He pointed. Captain Jerome drew his spyglass from his coat and looked out into the distance. Sure enough, he could see the white sails of the merchant ship lumbering in the distance. "Excellent. How long until we catch her?" Jerome replied. "Won't be more than a day now, Captain. Should have her in range by morning. That is, if the clouds don't catch us first," he added. All four of them looked behind them and could see thick gray clouds trailing the ship. Captain Jerome furrowed his brow and said, "They'll be on us by nightfall. Make sure the sails stay out until the storm is directly upon us. I don't want to lose a minute. The ship can weather it." The crew agreed and went back to their duties. That night the ship clipped along at a brisk pace, great gusts of air pushing her forward. The sky had turned black, and not a single star was visible. Jack, holding a lantern, looked at Pegleg Rick nervously. It had started to rain, and Jack could feel droplets of water run down his nose and land in the puddles forming on the deck. The drops made little ripples. "Should we not take the sails in?" Jack asked. Rick shook his sleeve, and water sprayed from it. This was an utterly futile act, as Rick's entire coat was already drenched. "No," Rick said. "You heard the captain. The sails stay out until she can't handle any more. Trust the ship, Jack." In these few hours the sea had gone from calm to being filled with large, rough waves like a vast saw blade the ship was riding over. With each passing wave the ship lurched briefly into the air and then slapped back down into the water. Jack looked up into the sky and for the second time in the day believed himself to be losing his mind. He saw a massive cloud in the shape of a giant man. The giant clapped his tremendous hands and it made a sound like thunder, and a flash of lightning came down and struck the water in the distance. "All right, that's enough. Bring in the sails," the captain shouted from the stern castle. No sense in being torn apart by lightning, and then he laughed as if he was enjoying himself, as if he found the whole ordeal exhilarating. Rick and Jack set untying the ropes that held the sails, which proved to be difficult with their slippery hands. "You're going to have to go up the mast and secure the main sail, Jack," Rick shouted over the wind and thunder. Jack looked at the rope ladder leading up the mast apprehensively. He sputtered water from his mouth and then started to climb. As he did so, the ship was lifted into the air by a large wave and slapped back down into the water. When it did, it shook Jack's feet loose, and he found himself holding onto the ladder with only a single hand. Panicked, Jack scrambled to find his footing and clung to the ladder and looked down to the deck. He paused and envisioned himself falling and snapping his neck or being swept off the ship completely. The thunder clapped, and another large wave raised the ship into the air and slapped it back down into the water. Jack didn't try to climb higher, simply clung to the ladder. He sat there for a moment, unable to move, the sail flapping wildly in the wind. Yet another wave tossed the ship before slamming it back down. This time the old boat shuddered and creaked as it struck, and Jack could clearly hear his name in the sound of the boards twisting. The ship was calling to him. It needed Jack to secure the sail, and Jack mustered his courage and lifted his hand up a rung. The next morning, Jack watched as the sails unfurled once more and caught the cool morning air. The captain looked through his spyglass, smirked, and announced, "We've gained quite a few leagues, gentlemen. You can see the slippery morning there. Won't be more than a few hours now."